Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast's NBA Draft Live Show. It's time for us to find out what the hell is going to happen in this 2022 NBA Draft. With me, as always, Matt Pennie over there in Boston. What up, Ben?
I'm very excited. I know you're very excited. This is changing by the moment, the minute in front of us. I dress for the occasion. You said before we got on here, why are you wearing a suit? You're supposed to dress for the job that you want. They invited 24 guys to the green room. There's space for another. If there's 25, the 25th invitation, I'm ready to jog around the corner, get there, and jump into action. But until then, I'll be here with you, a special guest or two, guiding our way through this draft that apparently isn't set yet, and we are 12 minutes till the first pick.
I see that this thing is not set yet. This thing is going to be crazy. Adrian Wojnarowski has thrown a bomb our way, a patented Woj bomb. Paulo is in serious contention to go number one, as the gamblers have thought for a while now. Paulo on Sunday started to get real action to go number one overall, moving from anywhere between 12 to 18 to 1, all the way down to about 2.8 to 1, 2.5 to 1. Then last night there was heavy movement again. Paulo actually became the favorite to go number one. Woj tweets this morning that it looks like it's going to be Jabari Smith at number one again. Odds flip again. And as of 10 minutes ago, it was minus 900 for Jabari Smith to be the number one overall pick.
Yikes.
You have to win. You have to bet $9 to win $1. This thing is off the rails already. I have no idea what to expect here. This is going to be nuts.
Do you remember when this was a boring draft? It was boring. The guys at the top aren't great. Credit to the Magic. Credit to Paolo Banchero's camp. However this thing has swung, I went to bed last night around midnight. I woke up at 5, 6 in the morning. My son wanted to watch a movie, which was great. And I wake up to this barrage of texts of the gambling line shifting. And then by about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it was back to normal. And now it's crazy. So I credit Orlando for the process of keeping it so close to the vest. You and I talked about this, and I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back here. We talked about this in early June when it was written in marker that the number one pick was Jabari Smith Jr. You talked to people, I talked to people. We said it's not a foregone conclusion. I thought it would be a foregone conclusion before 7:49 p.m. here, but the fact that they're still going through it, I don't know if they're vetting it. I don't know if they're standing on tables, throwing stuff at each other in the Orlando Magic war room, but there's excitement to start off here, which is a little insane.
Yeah, look, here is what I wrote in my final mock draft. Smith was the guy number one in the immediate post-lottery mock draft, and he remains that guy here as we move toward the end of draft week. I'm still not as certain as some of my media colleagues to call this a lock, even less than 2 hours away from the event. The Orlando front office is extremely secretive and has done a phenomenal job of keeping this thing under wraps. It has done its due diligence on all of the top group of prospects in different ways. I don't think this decision has been made for weeks or anything like that, and we'll just find out about it on draft night. I know that this is not the answer that bettors want to hear right now as they try to place their bet on who goes number one, but I legitimately have thought this process that throughout this process, the Orlando's decision is much more wide open than the consensus would indicate. That was 2 hours ago that I wrote that. Yeah. I still was concerned as of 2 hours ago. And I'm someone who talks to people. You talk to people. Yeah. This thing is wide open. Let's just be real with it. Let's not act like it's a done deal. Try and be first. Orlando did a great job.
I didn't feel great about it. I'm still getting text messages as we speak about are we sure? Is this moving? Is this shifting? There's very few people I think on the planet that actually know. If Vegas gets this right again, I'm never going to gamble ever. It's how did you know this? And the rest of us didn't. We joked about it this morning. Did someone at a bar just throw this across and somebody caught it and said, hey, Paulo's going number one. I don't think it's Jabari Smith Jr. Maybe. Let's quickly talk about this, though, as we get closer and closer to number one pick. We talked a lot about Jabari Smith Jr.'s fit with the Magic. We talked a lot about potentially Chet Holmgren's fit with the Magic. What's your take on if this reaches the level that it looks like? What's Paolo Banchero's fit on the Magic with the current pieces and roster that they have?
Yeah, it's interesting. Is Orlando good enough to where you worry about any pieces that fit outside of Franz Wagner, who is their main piece, right? And Jalen Suggs to an extent, who I would consider a real secondary asset moving forward. I don't know that you do. I don't like the idea of Wendell Carter and Paulo
Right.
Banchero together in the front court. Like, I think that just doesn't have enough foot speed necessarily to be able to defend effectively in the NBA. Wagner is, not fast for a three if he's going to go down and play the three more often. So I worry about foot speed for sure. But on some level, I am interested in where this all goes now, and I'm interested in just hearing your perspective on what the fit is with the Orlando Magic here moving forward with Paulo, if they end up drafting him at number one.
Their view, and as we're watching the one of my favorite parts of the NBA had this NBA runway with the parents as the players are introduced. It's awesome if you're peeking at it on the screen. It's funky, right? It's funky. If you're Orlando, do you worry about the fit? I've yelled about just taking Jaden Ivey if you're the Kings. Don't worry about the fit. Like he's the guy. If they feel that strongly about Paulo, they'll move some things around to make it work. On paper, I don't love it with just extending Wendell, like you talked about. Franz Wagner can kind of play anywhere, but from that self-creation spot that Paulo has to be able to get his own, yeah, there's definitely intrigue there. I'm worried about Orlando needs floor spacers. And when the lottery was announced and we did our mock draft immediately following, I took Chet and you said, well, wait a minute. Jabari, just on paper, is better because he stretches the floor. He opens up all those driving lanes for Cole Anthony, for Jalen Suggs, for Franz Wagner to operate a little bit. I think the floor gets even a little bit more crowded with Paulo there, but I don't want to shortchange him after an unbelievable Final Four run that really turned the corner, I think, from a passing perspective about January and put it all together when it mattered, when a lot of these guys were sitting at home watching NCAA tournament games. We've discussed at length. Paulo Banchero has been awesome during pre-draft. He's in fantastic shape. The jumper looks better. I know it's an open gym shooting around by yourself. He's done everything the right way up to this point. So he, without question, warrants consideration for number one. But we'll get an answer here in about 10 minutes. If this was all some weird smokescreen by somebody somewhere, or this was just reality creeping its way out too.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been incredibly clear on this from the jump, right? That Paulo has been incredible in workouts. You mentioned that within your little spiel there. I was told that Paulo just absolutely looked phenomenal any place that he decided to work out, that he just looked like an incredible physical, like mismatched nightmare long term that would go into these workouts and just be like 6'10" and handle the ball at an exceptionally high level and knock down shots in an open court. Like all of the workout, everything that came with that, all of those reports were absolutely stunning, I thought.
So let's remain in our fantasy world here. Let's say Paulo goes number one. Not saying it's going to happen. I have no inside information. My phone's right here. I'm no Woj. You would know before I would. Paulo goes first.
Do you want to know what Woj just tweeted?
Not really, unless it's done. I turned off the notifications, but go ahead. Your show.
I mean, Woj gave us a very good indication. As the Orlando Magic move closer to getting on the clock, Duke's Paulo Banchero is now looming as a front runner to be the number one overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. I mean, the whole thing
how did we get here? So let's.
It's great. Like I absolutely love this.
I'm not rooting against it. I like working on the fly here. Let's throw out the scripts if we had any. I have no notes. We're just going off the cuff here. If Paulo goes one, let's now talk about what happens at 2 and 3. You're Oklahoma City. You're at 2. You're the Houston Rockets at 3. What happens? I'm assuming it's still going to be some order of Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith Jr. What happens between those two spots?
I'm kind of thinking that Chet still goes to Oklahoma City, to be honest. Like that's what my current read on this is. I mean, it seems like that has been an attempt to orchestrate that the whole way. But then again, like we saw a photo of Jabari Smith doing a thing at like the airport with Sam Presti or whatever, like where he's getting his bags like out of a plane or whatever. So I don't know. Like I'm thrown now. I think it's probably Chet, but I thought it was Jabari at 1. So like who the hell knows?
11 minutes ago, how quickly things change. And then we again, we've discussed this at length. I love Chet's fit anywhere. I think it's great in Oklahoma City because he's not going to be rushed into being the main option. Defensively, he can kind of be the main option, roaming the paint, blocking shots, taking rebounds off the rim, pushing the pace, going with Josh Giddey, going with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, have some toughness with Lou Dort, however they want to spread out the rest of the court. Now let's talk Jabari Smith. What does it look like with Jabari Smith Jr. if we're still in our weird semi-upside-down world with the Houston Rockets?
A great fit is a pick and pop guy with Jalen Green, right? Like that's a great pick and roll fitness. It's not quite the same as Paulo and Jalen because I think you can switch that action in a way where if it was Paulo, you wouldn't be able to switch that action necessarily. But I actually really like Jalen Smith as a guy or Jabari Smith. I'm sorry. Good God. I'm like all thrown off right now. Also, my cat's like trying to break down the door to my
Go
office.
let him in. Go let him in. We're having a party.
Yeah.
We let in all these people on YouTube. You can let the cat in.
We might get there eventually.
That's like pick 23. We let the cat in. We're going off the rails.
Yeah, we let the cat in at 23. Yeah, look, I think Jabari Smith probably not quite as good of a pick and roll partner as Paulo Banchero because you're going to be able to switch that action a little bit easier because Jabari is just going to try and shoot over the top as opposed to like punish you and take you down into the post. But I don't know. Like I think it's actually probably a pretty good fit at the end of the day. And if I was Houston, I'd probably be happy with Jabari and I'd be happy with Chet too. And we can talk about that momentarily, but like, I think that it works for Houston still.
Absolutely. And with Houston, you ship out Christian Wood, right? So you clear out space regardless of who it is. And we're sort of kind of fitting this similar pieces into holes that don't work with, well, if it is Paulo and you just drafted Alperen Şengün, you have Usman Garuba, who's probably taking a backseat to all this talk, right? But the Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Şengün pairing probably works a little bit more cleaner. As a 4 and a 5 defensively, Jabari can make up for some of those mistakes, guard down the lineup a little bit, 3s and 4s, maybe rotate for 5 a little bit. Not the shot blocker, clearly, that Chet would be if Chet ends up at 3. But I like that too. And Jabari's translation is really clean. And I don't want to shortchange him either because we talk so much about the upside of the other guys. Jabari Smith Jr. is a year younger than Chet Holmgren. His developmental track has skyrocketed. He was a top 10 kid out of high school. He was in the USAB system. It's not like he came out of nowhere like a Jalen Williams who's surging. We'll talk about that later. But he's continued to improve. At Auburn, he improved by leaps and bounds. The jumper actually got better. He was more of a mid-range shooter in high school that could take some threes. Now he's a three-point shooter. We're talking about can he make twos? So he's still a baby in his track of where he's going to be. And I'm really high on Jabari Smith Jr. as well, regardless of where he ends up.
And if it is Jabari Smith or Chet Holmgren in Houston, I like both of their fits defensively better with Alperen Şengün than I do Paulo Banchero. Now, I like the fit of Paulo Banchero and Jalen Green more because I think that two-man game would just be phenomenal. And as much as I like Şengün as a prospect, I don't know that you can like truly consider him necessarily whenever you're like diving deep into this and like trying to create like a high upside team, right? You take the best guys at the end of the day. And if you evaluate Paulo Banchero to be the best fit with Jalen Green, you take him. But at the same token, it is worth acknowledging like Chet Holmgren does help to actualize a lot of like Alperen Şengün on the defensive end. Jabari Smith's mobility and his help side defense does help to actualize Şengün on the defensive end. And Şengün's ability to make plays with the ball in his hand as a passer, as a ball handler, I actually kind of like that.
I do too. I've like sold myself on it the last 3 or 4 minutes here that it makes a little bit more sense. I'm not worried. I don't use the word worried. There's more of an opportunity, I would argue, for Chet to score more and be this central force of everything else if he were 3 to Houston than he would at Orlando. Orlando, I feel like, already has like an issue of too many guys that want the ball in their hands. You add another one with Paulo. We talked about how Jabari Smith works because they can't shoot from 3. He's a catch and shoot guy anyway. If the off the dribble stuff develops, it's another element. Like Paulo wants to have the ball. He can pass out of the high post. He can pass to the elbow, but he wants to catch, create, make some moves off the bounce. I'm seeing his touches being a little bit more limited in Orlando. So my rookie of the year pick I made for him about 3 weeks ago, maybe 3 months ago, when I was trying to justify why I had him at 4, but I still really like Paulo Banchero. I would take a step back from that just because of the offensive situation. I thought Jalen Suggs, and he didn't shoot as well as we expected his rookie year. I thought he would come out the gates hotter scoring wise, but it's a little bit of a byproduct of just a logjam of 1s and 2s and even some 3s that need the ball in their hands.
Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know what that fit looks like. I mean, let's find out if Paulo actually goes number one.
Yeah.
Like Woj said he's the front runner to go number one now. I mean, I just want to be very clear here now that we're on the clock, right? Shout out to Jeff Weltman and John Hammond.
Yeah.
Like, for them to have kept this under wraps in today's NBA where teams leak left and right, agencies leak left and right, like, they deserve an immense amount of credit for having fooled everyone. And at the end of the day, let's be very, very clear, fooled everyone here. Like, I kind of thought that I wasn't sure what was happening, and that made me concerned. But nonetheless, like, this was impressive by Orlando's front office.
Even if he doesn't go first, I'm impressed. I am. There's certain situations that you and I are closer to, whether it's for whatever various reasons. We'll leave it at that. I thought I was pretty close to this one, and I don't know. Like, I really don't have an answer here. So I'm as much anticipating when the commissioner says his name and the State Farm jingle comes off. It's not the traditional jingle, which already has me thrown off. Here he is. So he's taking the stage. I think they put him on the clock now. Let's see how we do.
Yeah, like I have like friends that are bettors, right? Like nobody knows that, or nobody who is a follower of the show doesn't know that, right? My text messages are hysterical right now. Jabari's going number one ? Another person in the group chat.
I just stopped looking.
Panic.
Stop looking.
I'm cracking up as another better. Like, it's just beautiful. This thing is so beautiful. I'm so excited that we are at a point where we have, we're a minute from this thing happening. I don't know what's going to happen. Do you?
No, I have no clue. I'm going back and forth. There's a clicker, not a remote control. I want to be clear here. I'm going back and forth muting it because I want to see it come out of Adam Silver's lips who this pick is, and I don't know the answer. I don't.
If it's Jabari Smith, I will never stop laughing. Like, for
why though? I mean,
ESPN,
that's the guy that we thought, though, collectively, that even if we said it wasn't a done deal, that's the guy we thought would likely be the guy. More likely than not. We didn't say 90%, but we thought more likely than not.
Yeah, I mean, I got some questions on how people got this wrong. That's kind of where I'm at on this. Like, I have some real questions why people were as certain as they were on Jabari. Where was the info coming from, I guess, is my question.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit unclear on that. In fact, I'm like very unclear on that. Let's be very clear on this.
Yeah, there's a case study because this is Sam Presti 101. And he's picking second. And early in the day, we were like, is this 4D chess that Oklahoma City's bluffing this whole thing and Houston's trying to trade up to number one? And the bettors are guessing, is the move to number one because Houston knows that if at 2 is going to be Paulo, that's their guy. They want to make a move. This is real Orlando. Again, I can't tip my hat enough to how they handle this process.
Yeah, Jeff Weltman and John Hammond, but this is them too. Like, this is not just like Sam Presti doing Sam Presti things. Like, Orlando during this regime of Jeff Weltman and John Hammond running the show, they have absolutely been the kind of organization that keeps things under wraps like this. And credit to them. I mean, they maintained the value of the pick for a potential trade throughout it. They kept everyone guessing. This is good work by them. This is very good work by the Orlando front office. And for, they can't make a wrong pick here as long as it's not like Justin Bean. Sorry, Justin Bean. Like,
come on, man. As you like, you're throwing shots at Justin Bean. You threw a tweet at him the other day too. Chet wearing a dice necklace. That's the win of the fashion so far. Mark Williams has an MW chain. Paulo Banchero has a P5, but I'm going with P5. That looks clean.
Oh, no, I already texted Paulo's representation. I was like, no matter what happens tonight, like, Paulo's suit absolutely wins tonight. This purple suit is absolutely incredible. We just need to be very clear about that. Me, Mr. Fashion, wearing just like a fucking like Henley, right? But Paulo's
Henleys always play. They always play.
Unreal.
All right, so we're starting now, despite this long entrance intro here and background of the Magic organization as we're watching our screen. The Orlando Magic are on the clock. So we have 5 more minutes to wax poetically on our takes.
Well, should we talk fashion? Did you see anything else you like? Like, do we need to talk about Chet trying to get a cameo on What We Do in the Shadows? Like,
Why are you going after my boy so early? I like Malachi Branham's blazer, like a black suit on, like
I
a
saw
kind of
that
cool
one.
blazer. I like that. I like Dyson
Jeremy
Daniels' fit.
Sohan
Pretty
has
good.
a purple suit as well.
Yeah, like the yellow hair, looking like a Batman
Yeah.
villain. I liked him. That looks good.
I love it. It's fantastic. Like I am all for guys going colorful. Like I don't like the big suit fashion that was
Well,
in
that's
the
gone.
90s or whatever.
That was like
Yeah.
2003, which is so cringy because you look back and my suits were never that baggy, and it was almost like the baggier it was, the more fashionable it was and classy it was.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of baggy,
Yeah,
not
you
like
missed that era though.
I couldn't afford all the way baggy. Well, no, I was class of 03 in high school, so that was like LeBron, D Wade,
Yeah.
whatever. But it's good how it's like it's become like Met Gala type fashion. It's not the Oscars, it's not the NBA drafts. Like, what wild stuff can I wear for a year here, for a moment in time here, a snapshot that'll stand out, and a lot of these guys do.
Yeah, no, I dig it. I think that I'm all for guys going as loud as possible as long as the suit is like a suit that fits you well. You know what I mean? Just like get it tailored, handle your shit, make sure it fits well. That's it. That's where I'm at.
All right, so on the draft, and I'm reading subtitles, so I apologize here. Adrian Wojnarowski said he's working under the assumption, I could be wrong here because sometimes the subtitles when they type the closed captioning isn't the best. Working on the assumption that Paulo Banchero is the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Let's do it. Like,
yeah,
I just have questions on like how all week people went on TV and the reporting for everyone.
It was this morning.
Yeah.
It was at noon. We had some doubling down at noon or 2 o'clock.
Yeah, let's be clear. Like, oh, by the way, like the people who told me all of this, like I probably have pretty similar sources in terms of what other people did, but you just never know with Orlando. Like, and that's not a bad thing. I mean that positively. Like, you just don't know with them, and I don't think anyone truly knew at this point. And
I don't know if anyone now big board. There's a lot of people at Paulo, a lot of Paulo believers, right? I don't know. I don't know if anyone really mocked this though. That's the difference.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see because look, I have too much going on, right? Like I can't go and change my mock draft.
Do it now. You can do that, right?
Yeah, it's 7:58 or whatever, which I'm sure someone is going to do.
Yeah, I had it. I was right.
I had it. Yeah, no. Like,
number one pick in the draft. Guys. Wild. All right, the pick is in per TV. I'm gonna hit mute so I can see the words here. Let's
All right, so
let's buckle in. The roller coaster is starting. So
okay, so the roller coaster is starting. Adam Silver's going up, according to Matt Pennie. I'm excited to see what this is.
Here's the strut. All right, here we go. Oh God.
We got the silver strut. By the way, for people watching and listening, I do not have my sound on. I do not have a TV on. Matt is watching.
Oh my God. It happened. Paulo Banchero is the first pick in the draft. I
love it. Great. So let's talk about Paulo Banchero's fit with the Orlando Magic. Unbelievable.
I need a sec. Despite us talking about it, like I need a second. There wasn't a world where I thought this was happening. I thought it was Chet or Jabari. I did not have my mind in a place where I thought it'd be Paulo Banchero. Nothing to him. He's proven that he's beyond worthy of being the number one pick. He came in too. Like it's this weird roller coaster where preseason he was kind of around that area, and coming out of high school, we said, "Here's a shot blocking guy that can hit threes." And at the grind session out in Arizona, he's doing pick and roll stuff off the dribble. And then it was weird. It had a great start to the season. Then he tapered off. Then he picked it back up. Ended on a high note. I'm shocked. I am. The fit is interesting. I'm shocked they went number one.
Shocking pick. Absolutely a shocking pick. Let's talk about the fit, though. Paulo Banchero, he is going to go play with Franz Wagner. He's going to go play with Jalen Suggs, their 2 lottery picks last year. Wendell Carter in the front court. Jonathan Isaac is another swing piece here. I actually kind of love the idea of pairing him in a really versatile front court with Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, Paulo Banchero. You have all sorts of creativity out there. You have shooting with Paulo and Franz. You have the defensive ability, the switch ability, the help defense with Jonathan Isaac. It's interesting. Look, we have no idea what Jonathan Isaac's going to look like, by the way, whenever he
Correct.
comes back from injury. But like the idea of that is interesting. The fit with Wendell Carter, I would like to see a little bit more. I'd like to understand a little bit more. But again, it's worth noting that teams that saw Paulo Banchero in the pre-draft process were blown away. They were
Absolutely.
absolutely, unequivocally blown away by what they saw in his workouts. And I am just very surprised. I'm at the point where I am legitimately surprised that Paulo Banchero is the number one overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. And that's not a slight on Paulo. Like Matt said, I have Paulo at 3 on my board. I think, Matt, you might have him at 4.
I
We
do.
think all these guys are so close. Like,
And I like him.
I
It's
don't,
it's not like a distant
yeah.
force. It's not like 2 that it falls off a cliff. Like I like Paulo. Don't get that twisted either.
Yeah, and like I have all 4 of these guys in the same tier, including Jaden Ivey. I have Paulo at 3. I think that Chet, Jabari, and Paulo are all just so drastically different. Paulo's more of a high-level shot creator. Honestly, Orlando could use like a real high-level shot creator from the front court. That's why this is valuable. Franz Wagner is good at this, but I think he's a little bit better as like a secondary guy. They started to use him in primary ball screens midway through last year, but I think even using him as a secondary guy is going to actually expedite his development in a real way. Jalen Suggs, this is going to help Jalen Suggs for all the same reasons we talked about Jalen Green in ball screens. Like, again, you're not going to be able to switch Jalen Suggs in ball screens anymore, essentially, because if you do, he's going to throw the ball down to Paulo and he's going to murder these switches. So you're going to allow Jalen Suggs to be able to use his speed to get to the rim. You're going to have a 5-out lineup with Paulo, with Wendell Carter, with Franz Wagner. I love it. Like, I actually love the offensive fit. They do have good defensive guards, Jalen Suggs. Markelle Fultz has done a really good job defensively recently. I'm in. I'm in on Paulo Banchero as the number one overall pick, even though it wouldn't have been what I would have done. I think all 3 of these guys are so close that I'm reasonable. I think this is a reasonable pick by all stretches.
Absolutely reasonable. Does this say anything to Orlando's want and desire to win right now? We've talked about Chet Holmgren's going to take a while to get there. Jabari Smith is probably take a while to get there. Regardless of where he had Paulo throughout this whole process, we said he's the most ready right here, right now. He is. I don't think that's really like us making some wild declaration. Does this speak to Orlando trying to push ahead of schedule? They're not going to try to stay in the lottery. They want to crawl out as quickly as possible. With getting this guy who's as productive as he is against different types of players, size from the wing, from the perimeter, from the mid post, or am I just overreading this thing as usual?
I don't think that you make the number one overall pick based on trying to compete now. I think that you're making this pick based off of who you think the best player is, who you think the best long-term player is. Orlando's not that close to competing in the East. Like, let's be real with it. Maybe if Paulo is good next year, they could make a run at the 10, make a run at the play-in. But I see this more as being they just evaluated Paulo Banchero to be the number one player in the draft, as many people within the media sphere and within the NBA team side did. They absolutely did. Like, it is not a situation where the top 2 guys on everyone's board are Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren. It's like that on my board. I absolutely like Chet Holmgren and Jabari just a little bit more because I think their games are a little bit more scalable to winning. But I also think Paulo is probably the best shot creator in this class. And for scouts on the NBA side, executives on the NBA side that value shot creation above all, that's why this guy is the number one overall pick right now. Paulo Banchero, number 1, the Orlando Magic.